There's no ruler and we got really straight lines just by dragging across the surface. Hello, this is BJ from Hearns Hobbies and welcome to one of my GodHand tutorials. This is about scribing. So it doesn't have to be just about GodHand, but I'm going to be using some GodHand product because I found some of their tools to be incredibly easy, particularly if you want to start scribing. Now I have quite a few different videos on scribing, and one of these particular items I'm going to be using I've already done a review on already, but I'll just quickly go through it and I'll show you my steps of going through scribing lines and cleaning up details on kits. So okay, so from the overhead you'll see I've got a couple of bits here. This one here is the Regal needle. This has a pointed bit, which is, let's open it up and see if it's a bit easier to see. That's the pointed bit. Let's move that around and get the reflections happening. And this one here is a four-sided chiseled bit. Now the pointed bit is to help you do curves, because with the pointed needle it'll be able to change directions very quickly. That's if you're freehanding, of course. And then this particular one, because it's faceted, you can pull straight lines easier with this one. Okay, the other thing I have is the bit blades. These are the bit blades, which are the V-shaped versions. So they do have a number of different bit blades. Some are straight and curved, but these particular ones have the V, so these work very well in cutting channels or panel lines. Okay, the only other things I'll be using will be, I've got a sharp knife, like so. Everyone has one of these, I'm sure. And then I'll be using these pin vices. So the bit blades here and the Regal needle, they have 3mm shanks, as in the thickness of the bit. So they're designed to fit into, say, a regular pin vise like so, or they also have the short versions, which are designed specifically for these bits. It's shorter so it fits in the palm of your hand, and also it has a longer area here so more of the shank goes inside, so it's more supported. So I'll be using this one just for this demonstration, but you can use either one, they're both fine. Okay, so what are we going to do? Let's go into really basic scribing to start with. Now I've got a bit of a test mill here, which we used to spray before. And I thought, because this is a grey plastic and this is a already painted surface, it'd probably be easier for you to see what I'm doing on the painted surface. Okay, just say for instance you want to scribe a line across here. Now quite often you need something to guide. Okay, so I'm going to be using this vinyl tape. This is the Tamiya tape for curves. Quite often you'll see people mention scribing tape. Scribing tape is probably a bit thicker than this, and you'll probably also hear mention of Dymo tape. Now Dymo is that old stuff that used to put in those little label machines. Now that's very hard to find. Now if you do use Dymo tape, the thing is that's designed to be permanent, so the adhesive there is really sticky. So I've found this stuff to be a good alternative, and I'll show you how I use it. Okay, so like any tape, you can get this in different thicknesses, and with the thickness, the thinner it is, the easier it is to make curves. Okay, so if you want straight lines, you go with the thicker stuff. So let's try the thicker stuff for a straight line first. Now let me find the end. There's the end. And I'll just make a scribe line all the way across here. So I basically want it to reach across, get some tape, and we'll cut this. Just like so. Alright, so let's just put it somewhere like this. That looks pretty good. Now even with this tape, even though it's thick, it will hold a straight edge, but it's always better to start from one end. So I've tacked that end, and then we'll tension it slightly, and we'll pull it across. And by doing that, you're guaranteed to have a straighter edge. There's a bit curved there. There we go. Okay, so we're going to be using this edge here. It's a very fine, it's probably like 0.2 or so along there. And to start with, I'm going to use a blade as I guess you call it a pilot line. So it's not actually going to remove any material. So when you're using a blade, as you're slicing through things, all it's going to do is, as the blade goes through, it separates and it goes like this. Okay, so the material's still there, and that V is going to act as our guide, our further guide for our actual scribing bit. Okay, so just gently push the blade up against the side, and you're using a very, very slight sideways motion, like force, you basically, it's more, just say it's 80% downwards pressure, 20% sideways pressure, because you just want that sideways pressure to act as a guide. And we'll just follow that line, like so. And you won't see it, but that's already put in a guideline right there. I guess if I peel that up a bit, you might see it. You might just see it there, maybe. Maybe not. See if I can get that focus really well there. I mean, I can see it, but just. Hopefully you can see it in there too. No? Okay. Well, there is a very fine line there. So with that fine line, we're going to move on to our curve bit. That's that straight, like an awl looking bit. So that's this one here. And if you have a closer look, you can see how pointy that is. Okay, so it's a very hard tool steel, pointed end, and it's tapered like so. Okay, fully smooth, so it can change directions very easily, but we're going to use it for doing this straight line. Okay, and now I'm going to be popping it into my holder. So normally in a regular pin vise, it would go to about here, but this one goes a lot further. You can see how deep it goes there. And this acts to give it a bit more holding power. Let's move that out of the way, it's a bit distracting. Okay, now I would normally be getting really close here with my mag visors. I'm not wearing my mag visors today, so hopefully I can see what I'm doing. But see that I've got this on a really extreme angle. Okay, the extreme angle helps you to go straight, particularly with the straight line ones. It gives you more control because the scribing edge is actually trailing where you're pulling. Okay, so we do that. I can feel the guideline there, and we just gently pull this back. Oops, sort of missed there. Like that. Okay, and we do this a couple of times, and as we do it, it will get slightly deeper. Like that. Now, if I zoom in, see if I can get that focus right. Okay, now if I peel that back a little bit, you can see the scribe line just starting to come through. Okay, so what we've got there is a really fine scribe line. It's actually so fine it's very difficult for the camera to see. Can you just see that? Maybe? Okay, so that's how you do a really fine scribe line. That's not deep at all. Okay, so that's how you get really fine details. Now what I'll do is, we'll put that back, and I'll do a few more passes and we'll get it a bit deeper. And there you go. That's a bit easier to see now, isn't it? Actually going through the paint now into the plastic. And we can continue doing that, and it will just give us a really fine line. So it's easy. Okay, so for instance, just say we want a deeper line. See how that's really fine. I haven't gone through the paint in this section yet. Let's move this along. Let's put this over here now. Do the same sort of thing. I've got my knife here. So use that to follow this edge. And again, I've got it on an extreme angle, so I've got a lot of control. Okay, so I've got my guideline in there. I've got my curve, or the pointed bit in there again. Now I also showed the same method when I was doing the wire wheels. Okay, like so. Now if we pull that back a bit, you can see how I've got a similar line to what I did over there. Now what I'm going to do is I want to make this a bit broader because I'm going to be using my V-shaped scribing tools. So let's pull this a bit deeper, move a bit more material. Okay, so you see that? Really nice. It's not particularly deep, but it's really fine. Okay, so that'll be perfect for some of these detailed scribing lines that you want to do. Now let's take that off and let's change it to one of these bits. Okay, so that's the bit blade V type. You see how they got the different angles. So the thinnest one is the 5 degree, got 20 degree, 45 degree and 90 degree, and that's the width of the cutting blade. It actually has a little blunt section on the end. Let's do the really thin one. Okay, so you can see that, how fine the blade is. The actual cutting blade is from this end. Okay, so we'll be holding it like this, and we'll be pushing it this way. Okay, so what that's going to be doing is it's going to act like a chisel, and the excess plastic is going to stream across the top here. See how fine that is? Okay, so let me just pop it into my holder here. Let's swap these out. So that's the pointed one out. Here goes this blade here. Okay, so it's in now. And what we want to do is we want to hold this at an angle like this as we're scribing. Okay, so we're going to be pushing this way like that. And we're going to see a little channel be created. Okay, so how about I start with this stuff here. Let's see if that's deep enough for me to actually channel through. So we're just pushing it up like this. Probably not quite deep enough because I've slipped on that second side. We'll probably want that deeper to be able to guide it properly. But you get the idea there. Should be better here. Let's have a look. So I just gently push that. And there we go. Okay, so this is obviously cutting a much deeper and a broader line. You can see those little bits coming off there. And that's how easy it is to scribe. Okay, so just say for instance, I'm just going to put this in the other bit now so I can pin vise. So I've got another tool to use. So the wrong holder actually. Let's swap that over. Alright, we'll get the broader 3mm adapter on, which is that one. Okay, now let's put this back in the back. Okay, so I'm going to put our pointy curve bit back on. And let's do this. Okay, so free-handed. I'm doing curved panel line, like so. So it does take a bit of practice, and if you do need glasses like myself, it probably helps to have them on so you don't miss it like I've done at the top there. But I'm getting this to a point where it's deep enough that I feel comfortable enough to use the bit blade to make a deeper channel. But there you go. So you can see how I've already got a panel line there. Right, so let's go with this one now. And we'll just try to carefully follow this. You can see how it's taking up quite a bit more material. Like so. So it looks a bit rough, but it takes a bit of practice to get it perfect. But just say you just need to remove some material, it's not just panel lines, this would be perfect for doing that too. So actually I'm going all over the place now. But that's basically the idea. So that's with the thin one. Let me show you what it's like with the broader ones. Put this one back. Okay, now this particular one is the 20 degree. It's quite a bit broader. What we do here. You can see how it's taking off quite a bit more material. And there we go, it's quite deep as well. Okay, so that's the 20 degree. And then this one is the 45 degree. This is the one I was using for doing the spokes, simply because it was broader and I needed to get it deep enough to fit the 0.3mm spoke. Taking off a lot of material there. And now let's go with the 90 degree, which is really broad. There we go there. Okay, so it's quite chunky, as you can see from the top. And you can imagine the channel that this is going to create is going to be quite a bit bigger. There we go. So we've got a variety of different ones. So this one here is pretty much the thinner one. 20 degree, 45, and then the 90 degree. This is the finer panel line by using the curve bit, which is this one here. And then this atrocious mess here was actually using the curve and then trying to channel it out with the V, which I didn't do very well because this really needs to be deeper. So let's try that again. So we'll do this to do a curve. You really need the curve to be much deeper than this so that the bit has somewhere to follow. It's been hard to do on camera because I would normally move this around my body, as in I'll turn it like so and make the part follow the bit. But I'll see what I can do here, just for demonstration purposes. Okay, so you can see how it's gone furry. It is removing the material. You know, it's very unlike a knife. Let's try and get that a bit deeper so it actually acts as a channel to help us with the other bit blade. Okay, so I think that's deep enough. Let's change this big chunky one back to the fine one I had before. And now let's try and move this so we actually have more control of the blade and we'll make the part move around it. So like that. So it still looks a bit rough, but with a bit more care, which I don't have at the moment because I can't really see what I'm doing, you'll be able to get quite a nice deep panel line. Okay, I guess I might as well show you with the other scribing blade too, because this is the Dorade, which has the, can you see that? Reflections? It's got the faceted end. Okay, so the idea is the edges on those facets will create the groove and you'll be able to do straight lines relatively easy by freehand. The trick is you have to get it in the right spot first. Okay, so it might take a couple of goes. You need to get this so that the groove's actually in there. Okay, so that's not quite right yet. That's not quite right yet. Now that feels right. Okay, so I can feel the groove actually going in. Now when I move it over to here, you can see how I'm scribing pretty straight lines there, actually. Takes a bit of practice. There we go. That's pretty straight. And that one's really straight. So yes, it takes a bit of practice, but that's the idea here. So you notice that there's no ruler and we got really straight lines just by dragging across the surface. Okay, and so that's the types of scribing you can achieve just with these tools. So these are the GodHand Regal needle. Okay, that goes in there. So that pointy one is what they call the curve. What I have here at the moment is what they call the Dorado. This has got the faceted end. And then on this side, we have the V-shaped bit blades. So these are great for channeling and for making deep grooves, as you can see from here. So there you go. So that is my tutorial on how to scribe using the GodHand Regal needle and the V-shaped bit blades. So thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this presentation, please think about giving me a like. And then if you'd like to see more content like this, please think about subscribing. So thank you very much.